listener production.
Hi, Natasha Belling with you and welcome to the afternoon edition of The Briefing. Coming up in our deep dive, the major overhaul of rules and regulations that will allow more gay and bisexual men and transgender women to donate plasma and blood. We speak with one family who shares their life-saving story. But first, let's check the afternoon headlines this Wednesday, the 18th of June. The world is watching nervously as the threats between the US, Israel and Iran continue to escalate. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, has vowed to show, quote, no mercy, posting on social media, "We must give a strong response to the terrorist Zionist regime." It comes after US President Donald Trump called on Iran to surrender and then claimed to know the leader's location, saying he was an easy target, but the US would not kill him for now. When asked by journalists about a ceasefire, Mr. Trump replied he's actually looking for an end. Meantime, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has ruled out sending Australian military assets to the Middle East. Despite missing his much-anticipated meeting with Donald Trump, Mr Albanese has held key talks with a number of other world leaders at the G7 summit over a new security and defence partnership. Here is the Prime Minister speaking from Canada.
As the world is watching the developments in the Middle East, it is our collective responsibility to work together to uphold and defend security and economic prosperity. And the G7 brings together major economies and democratic countries.
A third Australian has been arrested in Bali over the alleged targeted shooting of two Melbourne men last weekend. Bali police say one Australian was arrested at Jakarta Airport on Monday trying to flee the country and has now been brought back to the island to face questioning. And Optus has agreed to pay a $100 million fine after admitting its staff sold phones and contracts to hundreds of vulnerable customers who didn't want them or need them. The ACCC says the conduct was unconscionable and the penalty sends a strong message to the telecommunications industry. Now it's time to get into our deep dive on the major changes to plasma and blood donations in Australia. From next month, gay and bisexual men and transgender women will be able to donate plasma. And from early next year, they'll also be able to donate blood with fewer restrictions. We chat with Sydney MP Alex Greenwich, who says abolishing the outdated and discriminatory regulations is a major step forward for thousands of Australians who want to help save lives by donating. Alex, thanks so much for joining us. This is great news. Tell us about the TGA, Therapeutic Goods Administration, has now changed its restrictions around who can donate blood and plasma.
That's right. And so now we know from July 14, sexually active gay and bisexual men will be able to donate blood plasma. And then from 2026, we'll be able to donate blood and blood platelets. So essentially what we are seeing is the discrimination and the restrictions and rules which prevented gay and bisexual sexually active men from being able to donate blood being lifted. And this is going to benefit a lot of people.
They think it could be an extra 600,000 donors. That's an incredible number.
It is. It is so great to hear, and I'm so glad that after such a long time, like many people campaigning for this change, that it has happened. Because just as LGBTI people want to be able to serve in the military, want to be able to marry their partner, we like to do acts of service. So we want to be able to do the act of service, which is donating blood. And up until now, up until July 14, we haven't been able to because of the restrictions put on place. We did get those lifted during COVID from a 12-month abstention to a 3-month abstention, but the discrimination was still there. And I have just been overwhelmed today by my constituents, my community, my friends, everybody excited to be able to make the contribution, to be able to take the act of service that is donating blood and blood plasma.
How offensive was this discrimination that was still in place in 2025?
Look, it was completely nonsensical it was cruel. As a gay man, as a sexually active gay man, I would see the ads, encouraging you to donate blood, but then you're not allowed to. And it has nothing to do with the risk profile. Gay and bisexual men are some of the healthiest when it comes to their own sexual health, practicing safe sex, their sexual literacy. But here had a law which was, a rule that had been in place for decades that just didn't make sense because also, blood and blood plasma is also screened as well. So it had an impact. It was always hard and insulting to see those ads telling you to, play your part and donate blood when you couldn't. And it is a massive relief that has been lifted. It's removed discrimination from gay and bisexual men, but it has also importantly allowed us with the opportunity to literally save lives and to support those who need the blood donations.
Alex, can you explain to me why these restrictions were put in place to start with? And if all the blood was being screened anyway, what was the actual purpose of the restrictions?
Look, it is unclear to me why it has taken so long, particularly since, Australia and New South Wales in particular are leading the way with eliminating HIV and AIDS. PrEP has been around for over a decade. And now we're not only leading the way in eliminating HIV and AIDS, but we're also leading the way in allowing gay and bisexual men and other cohorts who previously couldn't donate blood or blood plasma to be able to do so. So this is showing that we've finally caught up with the time. The TGA has finally caught up with the times. Lifeblood is really proud to make this announcement today, an important announcement during Pride Month. Around the world, we're seeing all sorts of discrimination targeting the LGBT community, but it's great that here in Australia, we're seeing some discrimination removed and discrimination removed, which will ultimately benefit so many other people, whether they are LGBTQ or not.
In regards to, this is nationwide, I understand these restrictions are going to change. How does this place us compared to the rest of the world?
I believe this makes us world leading. We know in jurisdictions across the globe, there are various restrictions that will put different timelines on when a person can donate blood, with limitations on LGBTQ people, on gay people, on bisexual people, on sex workers. But now we are taking a sensible approach and we've said, look, actually, this cohort practice safe sex, they take PrEP. They should be able to contribute blood just as much as everybody else. In fact, the research shows currently that rates of STI are increasing amongst older heterosexual people, whereas that's not the case for the LGBT community.
It's an important step forward. We appreciate you joining us. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Tash.
Kate Fisher is one of millions of Australians who have had their life changed and saved by plasma and blood donations. Her daughter Marley suffers a life-threatening autoimmune condition that requires regular plasma donations. She joins us now to share how the generosity of others has allowed her precious daughter to celebrate what they call 6 bonus birthdays. Kate, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us about your story with the importance of blood and plasma donations.
Yeah, so I have a little girl who is now 9. Her name is Marley, and she has had 6 bonus birthdays thanks to Australian blood and plasma donors. She has an autoimmune condition that impacts her brain, and the only thing that keeps her alive in an acute setting is intravenous immunoglobulin infusion made from donated human plasma, and it's life-preserving for her for every infusion in between. So at her sickest, we can only preserve her life for 10 days at a time, and then we just have to rely on the kindness of incredible Australian blood donors to continue to preserve her life. It's life-threatening, there's no cure, but every bonus day that we get with our beautiful little girl is thanks to Australian blood donors.
And beautiful little Marley is your daughter's name. None of us know from one day to another whether we or a loved one, like in your scenario to keep Marley alive, that we may need to use the very kind generosity of many Australians that donate their plasma or their blood. What message can you give to people knowing for you in your circumstance that you were able to have all these bonus birthdays with your beautiful little girl thanks to the generosity of others?
Oh, look, Thank you is never enough, I don't think. And that's a big part of the reason that we created Milkshakes for Mali, which is the book and the podcast, that we share the stories of recipients to thank their donors and to encourage new ones. And I think there's so much more impact in recipients being able to tell their stories of incredible things they've done after receiving those donations.
So tell us about this book that you've written to share your journey and also to share the importance and the difference we can all make.
Yeah. So the book came off the first 4 seasons of the podcast where people came in and very light touch on the injury or illness, so the reason for people needing the blood, but then them telling a story of something incredible that they did afterwards. Now, for us, that's something as simple as being able to sit around a dinner table together and have dinner with our beautiful little girl, you know. And I always encourage people, next time you're sitting in a setting like that, whether it's around the dinner table with your sporting team, your work colleagues, whoever it is, just have a look over your left shoulder and have a look over your right shoulder. And if you think that either your life or one of the people sitting either side of you is worth saving, I really encourage you to go and do a blood donation, because 1 in 3 of us will be dependent on blood products in our lifetime, and less than 1 in 30 people ever donate. So we are thrilled with today's announcement that those restrictions are being loosened a little bit. Marley only very recently realised that our beautiful gay friends couldn't donate for her, and she was absolutely horrified to think that she's like, what, just because my Uncle Jeff has a boyfriend, that means that he can't donate blood for me? Like, that is ridiculous. Don't they just test all of the blood anyway? And she's like, Mum, we've got to do something about this. So she is very much welcoming that today. And, you know, we can only preserve her life for 10 days at a time when she's at her sickest. So you certainly don't think about those types of things. We're just so grateful for the incredible kindness of the Australians that keep rolling up a sleeve for her. And we would love to make the pink Milkshakes for Mali a rainbow zebra in the next iteration of the podcast and the book.
Oh, that is so wonderful. And how is Marley at the moment?
So she has actually just come from her very first horse riding lesson. So to think that 5 years ago, the girl that was mixed use in a wheelchair using a speech device to communicate and was having seizures that lasted for up to 30 hours at a time would be still alive, A, is just astounding, but B, would be able to get on a horse and go for a ride today. It just blows my mind. And every day that we get with her, we're living on borrowed time. We know that. Every day is a gift from Australian blood donors, and that could change at any time. She's relapsed before, and our medical professionals certainly keep us aware of the fact that it could happen again. But while she's so well, we've got to let her live, and we've got to let her have a beautiful and rich life for whatever time we have got with her. So, yeah, it's an absolute gift, and it's, you know, no amount of science or medical intervention can keep her alive in those situations. There's no other medication that can do it. It is just plasma donors that keep her here.
We really appreciate your time, Kate. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And if we want to find out more about this amazing book and your message that you and Marley are both sending to so many Australians and thanking them for their generosity, where can we find out more?
So Milkshakes for Mali. So Mali is spelled Marleigh. So jump on our Instagram. Milkshakesformali.org is the website, and the book is available in all good bookstores or online.
We really appreciate your time. Wishing you and beautiful Marley and your beautiful family all the very best. Thanks for joining us, Kate.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
That was Kate Fisher from Milkshakes for Mali and Sydney MP Alex Greenwich. That's it for this episode of the afternoon edition of The Briefing. We'd love you to subscribe or follow us on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast. I'm Natasha Belling. Thanks for your company.